Welcome to I Just Piddle. Today I'm going to replace the flushing mechanism or the flush valve in my toilet. This is the new valve that I'm going to put in. It's the Fluidmaster 400A. This is probably the most popular replacement part for tanks these days. When I sold plumbing parts wholesale, the plumbers would buy these things by the case to stock on their service truck. It's a pretty simple install, so I thought, hey, why don't I show you guys how I do it? Pretty much this is what it is. This hooks into the bottom of the tank, and this here goes up when the water level goes up, and it shuts it off. Pretty simple. You don't need very many tools to do this. You'll need a crescent wrench in case any of the fittings are a hex nut, which it is on older style. And if a crescent wrench won't work, you need a pair of channel locks or a big pair of pliers. A lot of times there's just like a plastic thumb screw on there. You know, you can just loosen it up with your hand, but if it's been on there for quite a while, you'll want a pair of these to get it unloosened. You'll also need a bucket because water's gonna come out of the tank when you remove the old flush valve. And you'll need a towel. Trust me, you'll need a towel because you want to dry up all the water that spills. Well, let's get to it. First thing you need to do is look at your toilet and look for a supply line like this right here. Most of the time it's on the left side, sometimes it is on the right. This one here comes out of the wall, but sometimes they do come out of the floor. Okay, this supply line from the toilet comes down and it hooks to a valve. This here is a quarter turn valve, so all I gotta do is just turn it, a quarter of the way and it shuts the water off. Sometimes in older houses, you'll have to take this and you'll have to turn it around, kind of like the faucet on a sink or where your hose hooks up outside your house. Now remove the lid from your tank and put it in a safe place so it won't fall and break. Now flush the toilet and hold the lever down. That'll hold the flapper up so all the water can come out. Well, not all of it, but most of it. Now look up under the tank and see how that hose connects to it. This one here is a thumb screw, but sometimes on the older style supply lines, there's a hex nut and you'd have to use the crescent wrench for that. Well, since this one here is a thumb screw, I can probably just unscrew it with my hand. Yeah, but sometimes if they've been on there for years, you might need to take your channel locks to loosen it up a bit. Right now would be a good time to get your towel out and set it here on the floor because more than likely water is going to come out of this. Okay, well, a little bit of water come out, but it's good. Well, right now, get your bucket ready because there's going to be water coming out of this tank. Okay, this one here has a thumb screw on it. On the older ones, there used to be like a plastic hex nut on there and you would have to use a crescent wrench to get it off. Now reach up here to the top of the tank, see my hand here, and hold the valve so it doesn't rotate while you're taking this off, but press down on it to keep it sealed up in the bottom of that tank there. Well, that's a lot of threads. Okay, I'm gonna raise up the valve. And all the water went down into my bucket. Now this here's a white hose, but just take it and pull it out and then pull your old valve out. And the best place for this is the bathtub for right now. Okay, well here's our new valve. You want to set it in your toilet and that's too low. They say that this part of the valve, this part here, needs to be 3 inches above the top of that tube. Not going to happen with this toilet. I think they're probably referring to the old 3-gallon tanks. So you need to adjust this to make it longer. So to make this longer, you just push this sleeve up out of the way. Then you take this and just kind of turn it. Then go back and test fit it into your tank. Then once you get to the height that you need, just snap this collar back down. There. Okay, that there should clear the top of the tank, but make sure that this little outlet right here, because that's where the new hose that's going to go into there comes out. Okay, now if you have the new valve in the tank and you have that outlet for that little hose pointing to the right, it's time to put the new lock nut on. Okay, they say finger tight for this, but if you're anything like me, I like to go just a little bit tighter. Now take your supply hose and put it back on there. And if you're like me, just a little bit tighter. Now don't turn your water on yet. Take your towel and get up under here and dry everything off. So now we got to put the new hose on. Take two hands, because you have to hold the valve with one hand and push the tube on. And then the way my toilet is, you just take that tube and put it in there. Now on other styles of toilets, this tube here, there'll be a little clip that's hooked onto this drain tube here. And sometimes that tube just gets nasty or rusty looking, so Fluidmaster does supply you with a new one. You can just clip it on that tube or wherever that hose was hooked to. So now, turn your water on. But when you do that, look for leaks all up here where you connected everything. You know, to make sure it doesn't come spraying out. If it does, turn the water off and tighten those up more. Well, no leaks. So now we wait for the toilet to fill. Hey, as the water fills, it's picking up this float right here. And that water is right there to the top. I'm going to adjust it down just a little bit. So I would turn this counterclockwise. And that'll lower that float down just a little bit. Sometimes, just depending on how your tank is set up, the water might overfill and go down in that tube. And you don't want that, because then you got a running toilet, so you do need to adjust that. And sometimes that float's adjusted way too low and you don't have enough water for flushing. But let's give this a test. We'll let that fill back up. Sometimes you gotta flush a couple times to get the right height if you're needing to do any major adjustments. You can hear that water running there. And as that float comes up, it'll turn the water off to the tank. And there we go. So now I'll put the lid back on the toilet. Gather up any extra parts that you don't need. Your tools, your towel, and your bucket. Well, I hope this helped you get your toilet fixed. The Fluidmaster does come with instructions, but if you're anything like I am, I like to have a visual on how to do things. Probably why I spend so much time on YouTube. How do I do this? It might be a good idea, you know, every 2-3 months, just go check the valves on your toilets. My water bill last month was 3 times my normal amount. And since it's winter time, I know Mrs. Piddle isn't watering her bushes and trees and flowers, so I knew there had to be a leak somewhere. This toilet is in a bathroom that I never use in the house, or maybe I would have caught this earlier. The valve, the old valve you saw me remove, is referred to as a diaphragm ball cock style of valve. This is probably the most used valve in toilets or residential toilets. They used to all be made out of copper, but you know, as things get cheaper, they go to plastic and they just seem to wear out a lot faster. A lot of the new toilet manufacturers are coming out with valves that are very similar to the Fluidmaster. Some of them even use the Fluidmaster in their tanks. There are some other kind of valves out there, but if you look at it and it's similar like the one I took out, or it looks something like a Fluidmaster, most of the time you can just use a Fluidmaster and replace it and you can fix your toilet. Well, thanks for watching. So be sure to hit that like button. Click on the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. And ring that bell. Happy flushing, everyone, and see ya!